January 1933.
It's easy to judge a killer, even easier when they look like a god-complex genius with a magic notebook. Light Yagami, the high school prodigy turned mass murderer. But here's a question no one really wants to ask. What if he was right? What if some people do deserve to die? What if the only way to create peace is through control, fear, and death? Too dark? Well, that's exactly why we need to talk about it. Because morality isn't absolute. It shifts with time, power, and perspective. In Nazi Germany, Hitler wasn't seen as a monster by everyone. He was seen by many as a savior. And what if you were born then, raised under that system? Would you still be you? Would you still see evil as evil? This isn't just a Death Note story. This is about us, our hypocrisy, our morality, and our potential for darkness. Let's talk about Light Yagami and why he may not be the villain you think he is. Light Yagami was the perfect student, brilliant, handsome, respected, a young man who lived by rules, justice, and routine. He was, by all accounts, the kind of person society values. But deep down, Light was bored, not with life, but with how meaningless it seemed. He saw criminals get off on technicalities. He saw corruption infect every system. And then, the Death Note appeared. A notebook from the Shinigami realm. Write a name, picture their face, and they die. For most of us, this would be horrifying. But for Light, it was an opportunity. He didn't want to kill for fun. He wanted to change the world. In his own words, I will become the god of this new world. It sounds arrogant, even megalomaniacal, but is it? Imagine giving a 17-year-old the power to end all suffering with just a pen. History is filled with men who tried to change the world, but not all of them were stopped, and some were even celebrated. Let's talk about Adolf Hitler. Most of us see him as evil incarnate, but in the 1930s, many Germans saw him as a savior. After the Treaty of Versailles, Germany was humiliated, economically devastated. Hitler gave them purpose, a scapegoat, a future. Stalin, too. He industrialized the USSR, fought off Nazi Germany, and turned Russia into a superpower. But at what cost? Millions starved in forced famines. Dissidents vanished. Was it justified? Pol Pot, Mao Zedong, Leopold II, all leaders, all visionaries, all mass murderers. Now imagine if someone had killed them before they rose to power. Would the world be better? Would millions of lives be saved? This is the foundation of Light Yagami's logic. If you could kill one to save 100, would you? Philosopher Jeremy Bentham might have said yes. Bentham believed in utilitarianism, the greatest good for the greatest number. If killing one saves millions, then morally, it's right. But that's not how morality works for most people. Because who decides what is good? Who decides who lives and who dies? That's where Light steps in. At first, Light only kills criminals. Rapists, murderers, abusers. Societies rot. And the world celebrates. Crime rates plummet. People live in fear of Kira, the mysterious executioner, but they also feel safer. Then L comes in, the genius detective determined to catch Kira. And what does Light do? He kills the innocent. He manipulates. He deceives. Because the Death Note corrupts. Or maybe it reveals. Friedrich Nietzsche once said, "He who fights with monsters should be careful lest he thereby become a monster. And if you gaze long into an abyss, the abyss also gazes into you." Light started with justice. But what he wanted wasn't justice, it was control. A world free of crime, yes, but only under his rule. Was it the Death Note that turned him into a god? Or was that part of him always there? The scary thing about Light's story is how easily we relate to him. Who hasn't fantasized about revenge? About making the world pay for its wrongs? About a cleaner, fairer society? But fairness is subjective, morality is subjective. In ancient Rome, watching people die in colosseums was entertainment. In 17th century Europe, burning women at the stake for witchcraft was justice. In the 1950s American South, segregation was considered normal. What makes us so sure we're on the right side now? You might say Light was evil because he killed, but what about drone strikes, or prisons, or war? If you were born in Nazi Germany, chances are you'd believe Hitler was righteous. If you were born in Stalinist Russia, you'd believe in purges. Your morality isn't yours. It's shaped by power, media, fear. So what makes Light any different? He believed in a world where evil had consequences, where fear kept people in line, where crime would eventually vanish. Philosopher Thomas Hobbes believed that without control, humans descend into chaos, that we need a powerful force to impose order. Light was that force, but that power, unchecked, unchallenged, is always dangerous. Let's stop pointing fingers. Let's ask the real question. If you had the death note, what would you do? Would you use it for justice, for revenge, for personal gain? Would you kill dictators, abusers, corrupt politicians? Or would you write the name of that kid who bullied you in high school, your cheating ex, the person who broke you? The truth is, Light didn't become a monster. He became human, just unfiltered. Power didn't change him. It gave him permission. And if morality is shaped by context, by how you were raised, what you've seen, what you've suffered, then maybe Light is just a version of us with a sharper pen. We all believe we're the hero of our story. So did Light. And if you think you'd do better, maybe you're lying to yourself. So what was Light Yagami? A murderer? A hero? A misguided idealist? Maybe he was all three. Maybe that's the point. In the end, Light lost. Not because his ideas were evil, but because power consumed him. He stopped asking questions. He stopped doubting himself. That's when he crossed the line. Not when he killed criminals, but when he killed truth. Because real justice requires accountability. It requires humility. And Light had neither. Still, it's hard not to sympathize. Not to imagine a world where Kira's justice worked. Not to wonder if things would be better if someone, somewhere, had that kind of control. That's the temptation of Death Note. It shows us our darkest fantasy and makes it look like a solution. So, let's bring it back to you. You watch Death Note. You see Light fall. You call him evil. But are you sure you'd do better? What if your country fell apart tomorrow? What if you lost everything? What if the system betrayed you? And then, a notebook falls from the sky. Would you kill one to save 100? Would you kill 100 to save 1,000,000? Would you kill 1,000,000 just because you think you're right? We all want peace. But sometimes peace looks like a battlefield, and the person pulling the trigger might not be a villain, but someone who looks a lot like you. Light Yagami was human, flawed, proud, intelligent, and that's why he terrifies us. Because if he's a monster, what does that say about us? If this video made you think differently about Light, morality, or even yourself, leave a comment below. Let's talk. Would you use the Death Note? And what would that say about you? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more videos that ask hard questions. Until next time, choose wisely.